And this is how during the chaos of the pandemic we raised $1.3 million in our first year in business. May 6, 2019, the day our story begins. I joined the edtech startup that will be known as Everyday. I was 22 years old, fresh graduate from a master at UCLA. Prior to joining, my plan at that stage was to find a job, work there for 6 months to save enough money, and then create my own startup. But like every good story, things turned out differently. When I saw the job description for this mysterious new startup, I felt as if I had written it from the future. Their vision for the future of education was so aligned with what I was thinking. It was still very early stage, they were recruiting their founding team and looking for a software engineer. And I was like, hey, that's me. It's like the origin story of an anime protagonist, the moment when they get the call to adventure. Several years ago, I realized what nearly every learning app was missing. They were boring. Learning should be exciting and transformational. If that's not the case, then what's the point? That's why no one finishes the online courses they start. Now, to not make it boring, we need to learn from the best, the entertainment industry. We need to use their tools, gamification, storytelling, and things like that. I was already exploring these ideas in college. I was often bored in my classes. So I worked on an app to make classroom lectures more dynamic. And then I found that most online courses that teach you how to code are really not engaging. So I also built a game where you have to write code in order to play and defeat the dragon. So you're actually learning while playing at the same time. This is why as soon as I saw this opportunity that they had a similar understanding as me, I knew that this was the place I had to be. It's kind of an unusual way to start a business though. We assembled an entire founding team without having a product yet. But we're also in a very rare and lucky situation because since day one, we had investors. They had just sold the previous company, it was an education company too, but they removed a little special unit from that acquisition deal and they spin it out into a new venture. That unit was exploring new online learning technologies. They told the original members, we will fund you, you go and build a mind-blowing app to help students. The team had an expert in design, sales, academics, but they didn't have a software engineer. So that's when I came in. I was the 5th member to join the league. By the way, if you guys like this video so far, you can subscribe with that notification bell on. With your support, we will defeat the YouTube algorithm monster. Every new subscriber boosts our energy levels and gets us closer to victory. I also have more videos like this coming, so you won't miss out. The vision of just helping students is a little too broad, so first thing was to narrow it down. We decided to help students in the biggest transition phase of their lives, leaving their home and getting to college. This was something we were all passionate about and now we had to find a product idea to actualize it. So we did a lot of brainstorming sessions. Every wall in our office was filled with post-it notes. The problem though is when you spend so long brainstorming, things become fuzzy, ideas just stay in the air. Especially when you have multiple decision makers, it's not just one or two founders, you have an entire team that needs to agree on something. I felt we needed to move, so I proposed a plan to our CEO. I told her, give me 1 week and I will design and code a little prototype for us. And guess what? She approved. That's what's awesome about startups. There are no real rigid rules. In the early days, you just try to do whatever you can to succeed. Now, time to get to work. I have 1 week and I have to deliver. I had a rough idea of the app I wanted to build. I drew some sketches on a piece of paper and then started doing research to get more inspiration on the UI and UX. I created a mood board with screenshots from a lot of apps and games I liked. I tried to find patterns of what makes them great. Based on that, I improved my original sketches. Now, time to start building. I entered my Coding Ninja mode and used some of the latest technologies available. React, GraphQL, Hasura, Node, all these terms became like a second nature to me. After a week, I had an app. Or more accurately, a baby app. The only thing you could do at the time was to land on the dashboard, click a start button and do a few questions. You couldn't create an account or save your progress. It was pretty limited, but that was the goal of this first prototype. It gave us a base to move from. During that time, we worked with a pilot group of students that we got in touch with through a local nonprofit here in LA. We took and digested all the feedback they gave us and decided to completely rebuild our app into a new, superior version. This would become the product that we have today, Everyday 2.0. We also understood who our anime villain was for this first arc of the story. The tutoring industry. The tutoring industry is a ruthless one. Prices are through the roof and most families can't afford it. So they fall behind on those competitive college entrance exams and that completely changes the opportunities they have in the future. That's just the reality of life. But we thought it doesn't have to be this way. We can build something to help those people. We transformed our app to essentially be an affordable digital tutor in your pocket. And it's not just any tutor, it's one that is better than most humans, simply because the very own DNA of the software we build has been crafted from thousands of hours of elite tutoring. Around that time, we moved to a new office and recruited our head of engineering. Let me tell you this, hiring is such a long and hard process. Sometimes it feels like it's easier to infiltrate the Pentagon, pass all the security and get the nuclear launch codes than to find the right member for your team. It took us 4 months to find him, but ultimately it was all worth it. Recruiting that team was like assembling our little Avengers group. Everyone was awesome at what they're doing and together we were very complementary. We continued developing the product, adding features and building a robust architecture for our app. Around 6 months in the story, we were ready to launch our beta to the world. We only had one course at the time, it was ACT Math, so we made it free and we were marketing it through Instagram ads. Now we wanted to accelerate our growth, so we tried what every startup does, raise capital. We wanted to raise $1 million, so we spent the next 2 months chasing all the VCs we could find, scheduling meetings, pitching our company. But we realized there was a problem. It won't work. The thing with VCs is that they will only invest in your company if they see traction. For example, a solid user growth. That or if your founding team already has a track record of successfully building similar businesses. Kinda makes sense, but we didn't have that yet, and just having a beautiful vision and a fancy product was not enough to convince these guys. This was our first taste of defeat, and we didn't like the taste of that dish. But it didn't stop us. We kept pushing forward. In a startup, you have to bounce back quickly, you're in survival mode. We had to figure out a different way, and we had to do it fast. And thankfully, we did. Found a more original approach, equity crowdfunding. You probably heard about crowdfunding before through platforms like Kickstarter. Equity crowdfunding is similar, except instead of investing in a project to get a little t-shirt, you're actually investing to get a little piece of the company. So now anyone can become an investor in a startup. It's a new way of raising capital that is getting more and more popular. A nice benefit of this compared to traditional fundraising is that it shows if you can also create a movement of supporters around your vision. Even though no one in our team had experience with crowdfunding before, we're confident that if people would just listen to our story, they would get behind it. We just needed someone who could amplify our voice so that more people could hear it. So we partnered with an agency that helps crowdfunding projects. Together with them, our CEO led the charge while the rest of the team was working on the rear trying to build the best product possible for our students. At the same time, an unprecedented event happened.
The World Health Organization just declared this a global health emergency.
Coronavirus. I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
That lie ahead.
I know you need to be ready for everything in a startup, but I didn't quite expect something like that to happen. Our entire company moved remote overnight and we hadn't even finished running our campaign yet. We were roughly at $500,000, which is only 50% of our target. The world was in a state of chaos, people were cautious where to invest their money. And on top of that, the only course we had was preparing students for the SAT exam, which got cancelled because of COVID. It was our beachhead market, the stepping stone we would use to scale. And now, we didn't know if we'd be able to make it. Would we taste defeat again? We didn't like the dish the first time we tried it. We just wanted something else from the menu. And here, I have to give my hats off to our CEO, Christine Utram. That's the importance of having a strong team. She kept pushing till the very end. The deadline was approaching soon, we had 2 weeks left and we were growing slowly day by day. Until suddenly, things started to change. We reached $600,000, then $700,000, then $800,000 in just a matter of days. We were going viral. It felt like having an old YouTube video that you posted 3 months ago that suddenly blows up. What happened, you might ask? Well, I believe there are a couple of ways you can explain it. Paradoxically, I think COVID actually played in our favor because even though our current product was preparing students for an exam that was cancelled, our future vision of a digital tutor, the underlying technology we built, made even more sense now that everyone was stuck at home, so more people wanted to invest. Then that extra momentum we got combined with all the marketing and effort we were already doing close to the end of our campaign created a natural inertia. As investors saw the amount increasing, they got afraid to miss out on a good deal, so they started investing more, which pushed even more investors to invest. That's like the perfect loop to have, infinite money generation. But we had to stop once we reached the deadline. And this is how during the chaos of the pandemic we raised $1.3 million in our first year in business. That's $300,000 more than our initial target. That marked the end of the first year of building a startup. We began our second year with $1 million in our bank account, a remote team of 7 people, and a new world changed by the pandemic. However, that first year was easy compared to what would await us the second year. There is one major miscalculation we did. It's a lesson that I think I'll remember for the rest of my life, and we spent a good amount of the following year fixing it. We're about to end our second year, so if you guys want me to make a second episode about that story, just drop a comment or a like, or even better, subscribe to that notification bell on, that way you get the episode as soon as it comes out. If you have any questions in the meantime, you can DM me on Twitter. This was Zorbek, and I'll see you guys soon. God bless.